Look at verse 37. Jacob, however, took fresh cut branches from all these different kinds of trees and made white stripes on them by peeling the bark and exposing the white inner wood of the branches. Then he placed the peeled branches on all the watering troughs so they would be directly in front of the flocks. And when the flocks were in heat and came to drink, they mated in front of the branches, and they bore young that were streaked or speckled or spotted. Here's what's going on. Okay, so Laban takes all of his animals that are supposed to be Jacob's, and he gives them to his sons, and he says, run. Because Jacob's going to go through my flocks, and he's going to find all these animals. Take all of the good ones and go. So when it's time for Jacob to go through there, all the good ones are gone. So here's what Jacob does. He takes all of the ones that he can find that have any kind of streak or spot, and he gets them together, and he uses an old superstitious technique of peeling all these branches and placing them in watering troughs and all these things, so that hopefully in his mind the offspring will be streaked and spotted and all these things, so that when he leaves, he'll be rich. Okay? He's using superstitious practices, which is very sinful because you're not trusting the Lord. He's using these techniques to get these animals that he wants. He's trying to get God's blessing his own way. You see. How often do we do that? The problem with this story, guys, look, I'm just going to be straight with you. The problem with this story is it works. Okay? I don't know what to do with that except to tell you this. That even though it works for Jacob, even though he uses this superstitious practice, and sure enough, out come the streaked and spotted things, and his flocks grow, all the strong ones he gets, and he tries to trick Laban by giving him all the weak ones, and he takes all the strong ones. I mean, he's in sin, but yet he's blessed anyway. I don't think that the moral of the story is, if you sin, you can be blessed too. Okay? Even though that may be the case. I think God blesses despite our sin. I think the moral of this story is this, is that we don't need to try to manipulate God's blessings. He's going to bless whoever he chooses anyway. Look, we see this all through time. When the Israelites were disobeying over and over and over, did God bless them anyway? Yes. Even though Moses hit the rock, was there water? Yes. Even though the Israelites complained about the manna, was there manna? Yes. The meat? Yes. You know, I mean, all through the Israelites, even though they sinned, God blessed. And look, we have a lot of promises in the New Testament, don't we? We have a lot of promises that God makes to us. He is going to bless us. He's going to meet our needs. God is going to give good gifts to his children. You know, God takes care of the birds of the air and he clothes the lilies of the field. Won't he do the same for you? Is that because you've earned it? No, God blesses because he chooses to, despite your sin. So what does this mean for you in your life? If God is a God that keeps his word, and if God is a God who blesses you despite your sin, then what does this look like for you? I'll give you 3 examples. The first thing is to trust God at work. I don't know where you work, but I know this, is that every job you have a tendency to try to spin a negative situation into a positive one. Why? Because we want people to see us in a positive light, because it reflects us better, which gets us further ahead. Instead of doing that, instead of manipulating and trying to manipulate a blessing, why don't you just do what's right and let God handle the rest? Why? Because God blesses despite our manipulation. And I'll tell you, I want God's blessing that comes to me when I don't try to manipulate it. I want that church from California to call me because God's put it on their heart, not because I called them and tried to manipulate the situation. The second area that I think that we have a tendency to sometimes try to manipulate and gain blessing is in relationships. I work with young adults, young single adults, all right? Some of these guys will really over-romance a girl to try to get her to feel a certain way about him. I always try to encourage my guys, romance is fine in moderation. What you don't want to do is manipulate their feelings. You want God to work on their heart. You don't want to try to gain the blessing yourself, you see. In relationships, maybe with your wives, guys, don't manipulate her emotions. Don't try to control her. Let God work on her and let the things fall where they may. Let God bless you that way. And finally, I think this just encompasses all of life. If you just obey, even when it doesn't benefit you, even when it doesn't benefit you, obey and allow God to bless you however He's going to do it. Even if you don't see how He's going to do it from the start. The church from California still has not called me, but I am going to wait. And maybe I'll hear today and maybe I'll hear tomorrow, but I will wait to see what God does, and I hope you'll do the same. Thanks.
Your intro worked well. You started hot. You are so appealing up front. You are strong and direct with us. You hold our attention well. You're animated, enthusiastic. But still, it worked. It worked, and you were pressing at it. It was more concrete in your second part. Okay, so good. And the fact that you're not going to go, you're not going to go. Still hoping you'd still like to, but who do I know? How could I? Yeah. Yeah. Do I know anybody that knows anybody? So, but anyway, it's not a tough. It's not an easy passage to preach, and I thought you did a good job with it. What else, guys?
One thing I thought about, you're just listening on the headphones. Listen on your tape, your voice. You have such a powerful, strong voice, and I almost like sometimes when you do your more resonating voice. And I think that's something just to think, that's a very fine-tuned point. Mm-hmm. But just think about that of even maybe controlling, you can almost say something more forcefully in your lower voice that just resonates.
I didn't bring it down enough.
No, you did. But I'm saying sometimes you're using this voice up here, and it actually, your voice, this that you have here is almost like a professional radio voice where I can just listen to that all day long. You do a good job of varying your voice. I'm just saying, that's just little things you can play with your voice, and just say, maybe just in the future of controlling and just maybe playing with that, of bringing it down, and you just got a really smooth, good, easy to listen to. And when you get that tone, just listen as you listen to it. You see the difference between your voice like this, and then you just, it just like Beau, so you can power through that too.
Cool.
Got a career in radio then. California didn't call you.
Yeah. Nobody knows anybody. I don't know if this is just because I like your subject really hits home with me, because I'm tempted to manipulate the situation, work my contacts and that kind of stuff. But I thought it was one of the best sermons I've heard in the last couple of months. Church, DTS, regardless, I thought so.
Okay, I'm really with Jason on that. It's one of the best sermons I've heard directed at seminary students, even in chapel.
Mm-hmm.
That was fantastic.
Yep.
Nice.
Good word.
So if they call you, then they're getting a good thing.
So I don't mind telling the guy to tell the guy.
Yeah.
We won't tell you about it, but we'll leave the phone number on the group.
That's nice.
Cool.
Thank you.
I'll just text you.
That's great affirmation. Thanks, guys. Okay.